Dzień dobry, assalamu alaikum, ciao, konnichiwa, bonjour, hola, good morning, good morning, good morning, Privet. This is Ken at 10. Well, what just happened? What just happened? Can you believe it? It's extraordinary. What seems to have happened is that we've had the mini budget announcement. And on top of that, I think one of the major factors here was the government made a bit of a ricket here. And what they did was they put the budget announcement just before the Labour Party conference. And Keir Starmer then gave the speech of his life berating the government. And those two things together led to market turmoil. Number one, new Chancellor, new Prime Minister, the Prime Minister not being voted in, and number two, Keir Starmer giving a really good speech. Not that I'm a Labour fan or a Tory fan, frankly. But the point I'm making is that I think that the combination of those two things, A, the government spending money they appear not to have, and B, Keir Starmer making some perfectly sensible points in a speech berating what the government have just done, have led to a lack of market confidence, and that has led to a slight run on the pound. The Bank of England has had to intervene and start buying bonds in order to shore up the market and make sure pension funds don't get attacked. Lenders have mostly withdrawn their fixed rates. We saw that coming anyway. The swap rates, that's the rates that lenders actually buy in money for in order to provide people fixed rates for a period of time, have been very volatile. So lenders haven't been able to understand what the rates will be 2, 3, 5 years from now, and therefore they haven't been able to fix those rates. It will calm down, in my view. I don't think it'll be great news. They will be higher, no doubt about that. Is it time to panic? Well, that's going to get you nowhere. So the first thing I would say is breathe. A lot of people are saying the market's going to fall off a cliff. I don't see it that way. And the reason I don't see it that way is, I've said this many times before, but people are holding quite a lot of equity and they've been stress tested up to a much higher rate than they're currently paying on their mortgage. So most people will be able to afford their mortgages, and so will choose to stay put, batten down the hatches, probably not move. And so there'll be thinner volumes, and in thinner volumes, you've got less supply. With less supply, the only thing you've got is divorce, debt and death. That's divorce, debt and death, I should say. And those three things will always be there. And for that reason, there will be some supply, but that supply will be limited. On the debt side, we will see some buy-to-let investors particularly hit hard, and that's because they pay slightly higher rates generally anyway. So I do expect some buy-to-let investors will see this as the tip of the iceberg, really, in that they've already had massive hits on the tax front, and now they're looking at the increase in rates, meaning that they now go into a negative position. In other words, they're putting money in order to just keep their buy-to-let investment. And for some, that will be a bridge too far. For many, I'm sure. So I do suspect that the supply side will see more flats coming to market than before, and that may put pressure on price on flats. On the house side, I see the opposite, because less houses are actually in the buy-to-let market. It's mostly smaller units. So we'll wait and see. But my gut feeling is, don't panic, number one. Number two, if you're not in a fixed rate or you're coming to the end of your fixed rate, have dialogue with your lender. Number three, if you are in a position where financially you're struggling, don't leave it. Do approach your lender. If you can make your payments, then please make them, because you need to make sure you're protecting yourself. If you can't make them, then don't just bury your head in the sand. Have a conversation with your lender. You won't be the first to call them. This is not financial advice, but you do need to make sure that you protect yourself, because if you start bouncing your mortgage payments and you really could have avoided it, then you'll find that when you go to get other credit or indeed future mortgages, it will cause you a problem. So number one is don't panic. Number two, what will be the wider implications? I think this is a market blip, like any other short-term reaction from people trying to make money out of the slide in sterling. It will end up leveling out. Like anything else, these things always end, and lenders will start to offer the longer-term fixed rates. Once they can see the swap rates are at a level rate, they'll start to offer new mortgages. Yes, they'll be at a higher rate, and yes, this will increase people's mortgage costs. Will it mean they continue to buy and sell? Well, I think on the sale side, we're going to see a much thinner volume for that reason. Many people will not be sure whether now's the time to move for them. I think it depends whether you've got equity in your personal position. Something we track through with a lot of our buyers and sellers is, if it's the right time for you to move. A lot of the time, it should be about you personally, whether A, you can afford it, and B, it's the right time for you in terms of your personal circumstances. If you've got a buy to let and you're considering your options, one of the options will be, no doubt, to increase your rent. If your tenant has fallen onto what we call a stat periodic, a periodic tenancy is where the existing tenancy has ended and they've rolled over, you can serve a Section 13 notice, giving your tenant 1 month of notice of a rent increase in line with the rent due date, provided that falls within the current market rates of what houses are available for at the moment to rent, or flats are available that are comparable. Then that should be acceptable as far as any rent tribunal that the tenant could take you on would go. But likelihood is they won't be alone. Many of their fellow tenants will have found the same thing. But I just want to, sticking up for landlords here, landlords have seen their costs go up and up and up in the last couple of years. It's no surprise to me that rents are following. And again, now with interest rates going higher, we're going to see more landlords sell up and an increased pressure on supply. And that's why I think when it comes to rentals, we're going to see rents continue to rise, and that will underpin the housing market. So I don't think the housing market in our area is going to fall off a cliff. We're very much a needs must area anyway, where we're kind of upper working class, mostly blue collar workers and middle classes, and those people would always need to live somewhere, to commute somewhere, to go to school somewhere, etc. So people will always buy, they'll always sell regardless of market conditions. Number one advice I have for you is calm down. Number two, look at when it's right for you to move. It may not be right now. When the market is in turmoil, it can be a time to sit and take stock and decide what to do at a later stage. But it really does depend, because of course, whilst houses are a bit more volatile in terms of the mortgage rates going up and down, that doesn't mean that asking prices are falling off a cliff. As much as some commentators are saying there will, there are as many are saying there won't, because most sellers are not going to be forced sellers. The level of repossessions versus the whole market in the UK is tiny, and that would need to have a dramatic reversion in order to have any effect on the wider market. It would have to go up massively, and I don't see that happening. It will go up, no question it will go up, and that will help the supply side slightly. But what will be against that is the vast majority of people that might have considered moving that have decided not to, putting pressure again on the supply side. So I think overall, number one advice is don't panic. Number two, it will settle down. There will be a light at the end of the tunnel. And number three, if you want specialist advice given your circumstances, then do give us a call. We're always here to help. But what a crazy time. I think that we could be in for a general election even. I mean, if it continues to have the lack of confidence we have in Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, there's no way the Tories are getting away with another election amongst themselves. It will have to be a general election. And then we could be on the verge of a Labour government. That could change everything. Who knows? Interesting times. We'll watch and report from the coalface as usual and tell you what's happening here. But so far, so good. Most people aren't panicking. They're continuing with their sales. There doesn't seem to be a massive impact. That may change over the course of the next few weeks. One thing I can see, and is already happening, is landlords are asking for rent increases, and understandably so. And there's lots of tenants that are feeling the pressure on that side. What's the answer? Well, the answer is to build more houses. And the government don't seem to be very good at that, because they put a new housing minister in every 5 minutes. We need longer term planning for housing. And that needs a minister that's in place, I think, a cross-party minister, nothing to do with the current government, just like with the Bank of England, almost an independent person that can look at housing from an independent point of view and realize that the only way to make sure that there's enough supply of rental property to keep rents down is to actually start building houses for the rental sector. Giving the PRS the carte blanche to go out and build to rent is great, but it's not providing enough homes for people to rent. So that's my 5 pence worth today. If you do have any other queries or anything like that about what's going on in the market, then always give us a call, give us a shout, drop us an email, whatever method suits you. But really tumultuous times. The markets will settle. This is about money making, and it always looks dramatically worse than it is in my view. But watch this space. We'll keep you advised. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Ciao.